And we're live. Hello and welcome to the Football Podcast for Wednesday, 3rd of February. I'm joined as always by Sir Adam Glau to discuss the hottest stories surrounding the footballing world.
Hello, Theo. It is a pleasure to be here. And without further ado, let us commence this podcast.
Indeed, in today's edition of the Football Podcast, we'll be covering Premier League results from the weekend that we picked out and yesterday, and one hot topic today.
But before we continue, if you're enjoying our content, we would really appreciate a like, subscribe, and if you could turn on the notification bell, it would be great. Theo, take us off into the Premier League results. It started with a good one for your team.
Indeed it did, Adam. Thomas Tuchel is the new Chelsea manager. We didn't get you too much reaction. Sorry for the background noise. That's telling me that Fulham Leicester has started. Just let you know that. And Burnley Man City. Anyway. So, yeah, Frank Lampard's been sacked. A little unfair, but hey, if Thomas Tuchel can get the best out of his players, such as returning with Thiago Silva, Christian Pulisic, and fellow Germans Kai Havertz and Timo Werner. So he got his first Chelsea win today after two successive home games to start off his Chelsea career. Drew against Wolves, but showed promising signs with a pretty weak team. And has gone with an interesting selection on Sunday with Marcos Alonso coming up with the goal, returning to the squad. And it was, you can notice, Adam, the tactical differences and how he
Indeed
he's more of a football nerd, as we would call it, as he chose Alonso because of his height, because he knew that Burnley would be a physical affair and there would be a lot of aerial duels. So that's why he opted for Alonso as opposed to Ben Chilwell. But it's important that we remember that Ben Chilwell is by no means out of the loop at Chelsea, and he will definitely be starting regularly. Fear not.
Yeah, I think another player who I think maybe forgot to mention that day was Callum Hudson-Odoi. He was playing a bit of according to the analysis on Match of the Day, him and Alonso were very much playing wing-back roles, an unnative position for him. He's a talented, fast, athletic, with good physical potence, and he's able to assert himself. He can beat people in one-on-ones, and I think Callum Hudson-Odoi could be promising at right back. Much like Alphonso Davies, who I'm a big fan of, it's not his native position, but he's filling in there very well. Watch this space. I think we can move on, though, Theo. I will move on to Leicester 1, Leeds 3. What did you think of that game, Theo?
Yeah, it was an interesting one, but just, sorry, Adam, just before I get to that, I would just like to note our viewers that there's been a goal at Turf Moor. Gabriel Jesus has scored 3 minutes into that one. Man City continuing their hot run of form. Moving on now to Leicester Leeds. Well, Leicester started the game well, as they tend to do so. But then Leeds came roaring back, as they tend to do, and they didn't really let up. And it was a very good performance from Leeds. Patrick Bamford scoring an absolutely beautiful goal right into the top corner. Really impressed with his display. And a nice goal from Stuart Dallas as well. Adam, what do you think of this game?
Well, I think it really typified Leeds this season. I think it just showed that strong mental strength, that their ability to take out teams with 1, 2, 3 passes, and also I think Patrick Bamford said in his interview he wanted to be up there with the likes of Salah and co, leading the goal-scoring tally for the season. Yes, Mohamed Salah is still ahead of him. He got 2 goals, which we'll move on in due course. But it really typifies Leeds this season. They had a setback, and they bounced back even stronger. Without further ado, I shall move on to West Ham 1, Liverpool 3. I think that West Ham were on a roll. 7 victories in a row going into the game. Liverpool were on the opposite in terms of form. They had just come off of their first win in 3 against Tottenham, where they played very well. Alexander-Arnold seemed to be back in form, who's a crucial player. Jordan Henderson was also back in the side. They're 2 important English players. But on that night, it was a team effort, and I think Mohamed Salah was definitely the star performer on the day.
Yeah.
3 beautiful goals and great performance from Liverpool. I don't think there's much more to add on it, Theo, unless you have something to say.
I just like to say, I think we witnessed one of the goals of the season when we saw one incredible crossfield ball from Alexander-Arnold, and then a first-time beautiful lofted through ball from Shaqiri to Salah. And within seconds, Liverpool went from struggling in their own penalty area to Mohamed Salah breaking away and swatting it calmly past Fabianski. I think that was one of the greatest goals we're really ever going to see this season, and for a long way to come. If you ever want to know how to counterattack, that is how you do it. Affecting the game,
Indeed.
Quick passing, really just beautiful. So it was computer game stuff.
Yup. Theo, feel free to take us on to the Tottenham game where they lost again.
Yep, depleted Tottenham side without Harry Kane, showing that their adaptability levels are quite low. We've seen them struggle without Harry Kane for periods of last season and season before with hamstring injuries. Harry Kane will be out for an unknown date. I don't think there's been an official set time for how long he'll be on the sidelines for. But Spurs are struggling without him. They don't seem to have much attacking threat. They seem quite flat, to be very honest. And Brighton only really needed one chance, and they got it. They had a few others, notably an incredible goal and clearance from Toby Alderweireld, but it was Leandro Trossard who has hit the crossbar the most times in their Premier League this season, who did get it into the net this time against Spurs, so Brighton getting crucial points there. Adam, feel free to
I think that was an on-point analysis of the game. Spurs really need to pick it up. Yes, they've dropped it, but as we've seen with other teams this season, it can quickly descend into a really barren run in which you just can't seem to get a win, lack of attacking spark. And Liverpool have just come out of quite a bad spell, but we've seen it in City. They were slow burners at the beginning. We've seen it in United, and they want to minimize how long that spell lasts if they do intend to compete for the title. And we move on again to Wolverhampton and Molineux. They were playing at home, where they beat Arsenal 2-1 in a very impressive victory. Theo, would you like to tell the audience anything about that?
Yeah, this was an interesting game that I watched, actually, last night, where Arsenal were actually dominating, despite the fact, similar to Tottenham, they're missing their star striker, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So, really interesting to see how they were attacking in the first half, and they were attacking really well, actually, with 11 players. That was until they had 10. When David Luiz, erratic as ever, bringing down Willian Jose in the box on the stroke of halftime. Arsenal were leading 1-0, I'll remind you. And they also had a goal disallowed by Bukayo Saka. It was a great goal from Nicolas Pepe, 2 nutmegs, and then a right-footed finish into the top corner. But then Ruben Neves scored the penalty where it was one of those 1-2 punches, red card, goal, and all of a sudden the emphasis was completely on the Arsenal defense and the Wolves attack. And red cards can really change games, and that was really interesting to see. And then João Moutinho scoring an absolute beauty of a goal. And then one of the strangest red cards we're going to see for a while, Bernd Leno misjudging a forward ball, which Adama Traore was running onto. He realized he completely misjudged the flight of the ball, and he couldn't take a heavy touch with his chest. So instead, he tried to do a very inconspicuous punch that next to his chest, out of play. But VAR were not taken for fools.
Quick to spot it.
Yeah, they saw it, and they actually didn't need VAR's help. And it was an immediate red card, denying Adama Traore the pleasure and satisfaction of scoring.
Yeah, I think his presence, even though he may not be by any means the most technical player, just the psychological impact of seeing an absolute truck flying towards you, one of the fastest players in today's game, it can change your judgment. And Leno was on the receiving end of it, unfortunately. And he made a rash decision, and I think it will be very problematic for Arsenal in the coming games. But we move on. The fixture you are all waiting for. Manchester United 9, Southampton 0. Well. We've seen Southampton on the receiving end of that scoreline before against Leicester at home. They were in the receiving end of the scoreline again, this time away. Both of them were the biggest defeats in Premier League history after the 1995 victory by Manchester United as well, under Sir Alex Ferguson. It was just nothing went well for Southampton that day. Their youngster got sent off after 3 minutes. I was watching Match of the Day. They noted it was a potentially career-ending challenge. That was followed by 4 goals in the first half, and then later in the game, by the time it was 6-0, there was another red card. I personally think that was a bit harsh of the officials. The defender actually tried to pull away from Anthony Martial. He was already going down, and they noted that, judging by his face, Martial's face, he thought he'd had a yellow card for simulation. But quite the contrary, the defender received a red card for clear denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. I actually don't think it was as bad a defeat as the Leicester one was, for several reasons, Theo. First of all, they had 8 academy players on across the bench and the starting lineup, and they had multiple goalkeepers. That's how desperate they were on the bench to try and fill it in. I think he needs his players to recover from injuries. Southampton need their players to recover from injuries, and I think they'll be able to bounce back. The manager has showed that he is able to turn the tables before, and I think he'll be able to do it again. Theo, your thoughts?
Yeah, it was an interesting game, actually. Just to give you the exact stat, it was 78 seconds when the youngster who was making his professional debut in the Premier League was sent off. That's potentially a career ender, and that will stain on his resume for many years to come, unfortunately. It's hard to come back from that rash. And I think it was just pure excitement to be on the pitch finally that led to that awful challenge on McTominay, but that Manchester United were just completely ruthless. And it was interesting to see once Jan Bednarek was off how easy it was for Man United to cut through them. They scored 2 goals in 6 minutes, and if that red card came in the 60th minute, my God, that would have been we could have been looking at something like 13, 14-0. That could have gone out of hand. So, I mean, it was a completely crazy game. And I think the red card was harsh, but if it's a penalty, it's a red card. It's just a question about whether it was a penalty, really. And I think, there's an interesting speculation around whether Man United do buy penalties a lot, which is interesting because it is a recurring theme, and Martial particularly does endeavor and tries best to win those penalties, and he's quite good at it, but sometimes it's less convincing. But if it's a penalty, it's a red card. With that, Adam, we do move on to our hot topics, where we're talking about Man City, who are still currently in the lead at Turf Moor.
Yep.
As we speak, we're 17 minutes in there, and Gabriel Jesus' goal still separates the sides. The absence of De Bruyne has not faced them at all, and they're playing very, very well at the moment. And they're leading right now the table. I'll tell you the stats. They have 44 points, and so do Man United, but they have 2 games in hand on Man United, so they could open up a 6-point gap at the top of the table if they win those 2 games in hand. And they don't look like they're a team that's going to lose anytime soon or drop points. So it's interesting to see because, Man United had this period. Now their form is a bit in and out. Leicester were doing really well, and now their form's a bit in and out. Aston Villa were doing really well, and now their form's a bit in and out. Arsenal were doing really well, now their form's a bit in and out. Chelsea were doing really well. The list just goes on and on, really.
The list goes on.
Yeah.
I think that, yes, they have 2 games in hand, but we need to take into consideration the opposition they're playing, Theo. I'm just going to quickly pull up their last few games. And yes, the performances they've been pulling off are really outstanding. But you look at the list of the opponents. Currently playing Burnley, they had Sheffield United, West Bromwich Albion, Aston Villa, Crystal Palace, Brighton. In the league, I think their last real challenge was probably Chelsea a while ago. I think that was their last really top 4 contender. I think that, and you look at their coming games, they have Liverpool on the cards very soon. I think it's this weekend, followed by Tottenham, followed by Arsenal, and then they have United after that in early March. I think it's too early to say they're running away with it, Theo. That's my honest opinion.
That's a very fair judgment, yeah.
Liverpool have contrasting, both Liverpool and United. Yes, they have City on this weekend, but they have an easier fixture schedule than... They both have easier fixture schedules than City. And as we know, they could hit a sour spell. And as we also know, Liverpool or United, and this is not ruling out any other team. It's just the 2 who are really contending for it. But this is not to say that a Chelsea, a Tottenham, a Leicester could not ramp up into 5th gear and pull away. But I think, judging by the way the season has gone, it is very unfair to say that Manchester City are running away with it. Theo?
Yeah. That's it's a fair analysis, really, Adam. I think it'll be a big test of their character, Man City, ahead. See what points they can grab in the weeks ahead against those top sides. So it will be interesting to see what they can do there. And if they drop points, then in the absence of De Bruyne, will it be easy or hard for them to pick themselves back up and go again and try and reverse that bad form. So it'd be interesting to see what they can do. But, Adam, if you have any further comments, please do say them. But I do think that is the end of our podcast. Please do like and subscribe if you're enjoying, and turn that post notification button so that you're notified when we post. So, goodbye from Adam.
Goodbye from me, and I presume goodbye from Theo.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye. Take care.
Bye.